Landscapes of bewitching beauty. Unique, species-rich, exemplary. Because something extraordinary is happening here. These natural habitats remain intact only because humans intervene and shape them. A new pact with nature. An area of vast rainforests at the heart of Africa, the northern region of the Republic of the Congo. There are landscapes here that no tourist has ever seen. It's the home of the gorillas, more precisely, the western lowland gorillas. There are more of these great apes living here than anywhere else. But this region has long since ceased to be a natural paradise. Roads now cut through once inaccessible areas. Villages have become small towns. Humans are penetrating deeper and deeper into the forests in search of costly tropical timber. Is this a repeat of the drama being acted out in other rainforests? Or how can the treasures of nature be exploited without destroying the home of the gorillas? The Odzala-Kokoua National Park is one of the oldest in Africa. Founded in 1935, it's one of the few places where they can be seen as close as this, the western lowland gorillas. They are the most widespread subspecies of gorilla. But relatively little is known about their behavior patterns, because they usually give humans a wide berth and can't easily be observed in the dense undergrowth of the jungle. Despite their shyness, their curiosity often prevails, especially among the younger animals. They're only a few meters away, but they're completely unruffled. The smallest of them come closest. They know, of course, that their father is keeping an eye on them. 160 kilograms of muscle mass. He's the head of a proud family of 22 gorillas. These animals are considered exceptionally docile and spend most of their time on the ground. But they're also highly skilled climbers. This idyllic scene can easily obscure the fact that they're a critically endangered species. It's hard to estimate how many western lowland gorillas there are in the remote rainforests of Central Africa. Since researchers have discovered new populations in recent years, the total number is thought to be around 316,000. It's a unique experience to watch a fully grown gorilla male engaged in his favorite activities, eating and sleeping, sleeping and eating. Another rare animal, the African forest elephant, can only be spotted in the Odzala-Kokoua National Park when it ventures out of the undergrowth. Like many other animals, it's drawn to a place which opens up deep in the jungle. This natural swathe extends through the forest for 1.5 kilometers. Clearings like this are a special feature of forests in the Congo basin. African forest buffalo also frequent these clearings. Whether it's Sitatunga antelopes or African fish eagles, the animals find something here that they need for survival: minerals in the soil. Even though the fascinating wildlife in the national park is under protection, by no means all its inhabitants live in safety. A greater spot-nosed monkey, or what's left of it. 7 kilograms of meat destined for the cooking pot. Trade in this so-called bushmeat is a growing threat to the wildlife of the region. The eco-guards are armed rangers tasked with stemming the trade in bushmeat. Nearly every vehicle they stop at the checkpoint is full of dead long-tailed monkeys or small antelopes. They see hundreds of carcasses like these every day. The problem is that they can't simply confiscate this meat. Hunting and eating wild animals is traditional in northern Congo, and within limits, perfectly legal. As long as the rangers don't find any protected species, like gorillas, they have to let the hunters drive on. They can't prevent the hunting of wildlife, just check that the hunting laws are observed. But sometimes, even when the laws are breached, their hands are tied. For the regional authorities, it's more important that the local population has enough to eat than that nature is protected.
Là, vous voyez, normalement, le commerce de la viande de la faune est strictement interdit.
Normally, commercial trade in bushmeat is strictly forbidden at this time because we're in the closed season for hunting. So, we're actually not allowed to authorize the bushmeat trade. But the reality of life in the Sangha province, I don't know whether it's a political matter, but in any case, hunting is the main occupation of the people here. So, we're obliged to help the people. That's the reality.
The rangers examine a lot of vehicles every day. Nevertheless, trade in bushmeat is booming. Most of the 80,000 inhabitants in and around the park don't see why they should do without a cheap source of food that's completely normal for them. The national park is administered from Mbomo, a small town on the edge of the conservation area. Some years ago, the non-governmental organization African Parks took over the management. Since then, they've done a lot to try and convince the locals about nature conservation. No easy task. That applies to ivory too. The illegal trade in the white gold has now advanced into the jungle of Central Africa. Even the dense rainforest does not prevent the poachers from mercilessly shooting down the grey giants. What we see here is the ivory seized over the last 18 months. Including the tusks of young animals, weighing just a few hundred grams. The evidence storeroom of the park also holds the criminals' weapons. Confiscated rifles used by the poachers not just to go hunting for elephants, but also to threaten the rangers. There are even military weapons here, Kalashnikovs. The national park doesn't have the money to put more armed rangers into the fight against poachers. What's also lacking is the support of the people living around the park.
Elephant poaching has, without a doubt, increased in the last year. There is a decrease in job availability in Congo. There's a certain increase in poverty, and it's always been a way of life of population here to revert back to traditional resources like ivory or bushmeat. So the problem has been increasing. One indicator is, for example, the price of ivory has doubled over the last year.
It's not enough just to check vehicles and seize weapons. It's a question of the people of the Congo recognizing for themselves a value in an intact flora and fauna. They have to benefit from nature conservation. The national park needs allies. How hard that is shown by a visit to Lango, a village of 150 inhabitants in the middle of the jungle. The villagers have laid out small plots and gardens to plant manioc, a few avocado trees, and oil palms. The village regularly receives uninvited visitors from the park.
They wait for the right moment to devastate everything. Then it's pandemonium, a deafening noise from over there. And then they attack. It's weird, very weird. It's deadly. We're really persecuted by these elephants.
In view of the trampled plants, the farmer is not particularly enthusiastic about protecting wild animals.
Destruction by animals, by protected animals. People should think about the human population first. We're in favor of conservation and against the poachers, but we need the government to let us live in peace.
The national highway marks the boundary of the park, a border which doesn't keep the animal population in because there's no fence. A lot of things are different over the road. The gorillas run out of the national park directly into the neighboring territory of a timber company, into a forest that's exploited commercially. That might be expected to frighten the gorillas away from this area. But the opposite seems to be the case. Here too, gorilla families wander through the jungle. It's not uncommon for them to encounter loggers. The loggers arrive every day just before 6 in the morning. They have an hour and a half's drive through the vast forest of the timber company behind them. The loggers, with their huge power saws, the lorry drivers and digger operators get ready for their well-paid work. They're employed by the IFO, the Industrie Forestière du Ouest. The company has acquired a forestry concession from the government, giving it the right to utilize the timber from a forest region. Forestry engineer Jean-Paul Berlinga ensures that everyone keeps to the schedule. Time is money, even in the jungle. With an area of 11,600 square kilometers, the IFO forest is the biggest forestry concession in the country, over 7 times the size of London. Teams of 3 men fell trees one after the other. The chainsaw is repositioned again and again. That ensures that the tree falls in a specific direction. The falling tree must not endanger the loggers or do unnecessary damage to the rest of the forest. Only selected valuable trees are felled. They're each marked with a number, so their processing can be traced, from the forest to buyers around the world.
2 pieds, il y a 2 talis, et on rote. On commence par le deuxième, et on sort.
The loggers in the IFO forest follow a detailed plan. They all carry maps of the area to be felled. These not only show the position of the trees to be felled, above all, they mark the trees and areas to be left untouched.
Felling trees does not necessarily mean destroying the forest. We don't cut down all the trees by any means. We're only allowed to fell trees with a given minimum diameter. So it's not destruction, but a form of harvesting, and it's completely accountable, with as little damage as possible.
Despite the insects, heat and humidity, the loggers have to remain highly concentrated. A wrong cut can have serious consequences for the men's safety, the timber quality, or for nature. They try to ensure that the tree falls where it will do least damage or destruction to other trees. But isn't that just fine words in view of pictures like these? From this perspective, cutting down a jungle giant looks like deforestation. Seeing the whole picture requires a bird's-eye view. The damage caused by the felled tree really is kept to a limited area. There is no wholesale deforestation here. In this forest, on average, just one tree is felled on an area the size of 2 football pitches. And not just for environmental, but also for good commercial reasons. The timber company's business is only secure as long as the forest survives. Jean-Paul Bellinger from Cameroon and Frenchman Antoine Couturier are responsible for ensuring that IFO operates in a very different way from what many conservationists in Europe might imagine. They too work with maps containing precise information, the overall view of what is to be done in the forest and what not. Clearings, streams and planned pathways are plotted just as carefully as every large tree. But in a many thousand square kilometre jungle, how did IFO achieve measurements precise to the last metre? By looking, tree by tree. Long before loggers enter the forest, these men are hard at work, taking an inventory of the rainforest. Their task is to record which types of trees are growing here and how thick they are. Calculating the diameter of each tree is essential for planning ahead. Depending on the species, trees have to be at least 70 or 100 centimeters thick before they can be felled. Thinner ones are left, as are the very big old trees with diameters of over 2 meters. Species, diameter and position are noted down, and the tree is given a number so it can be identified later. All the information is then stored in a database. Through the inventory, the timber company knows every tree before any loggers arrive.
We do this to know the forest precisely, to know exactly how much timber there is, what kind, and what tree trunks are there. We need that for our planning, so we can know how much timber we can harvest by the end of the year.
But the population census in the rainforest doesn't just cover the trees. Wildlife is also systematically recorded. Whether it's the black and white colobus monkey or the African forest elephant. In a planned felling area, experts from a conservation organization look in advance for zones in which there are concentrations of animals or rare species. If they find an area where, for instance, a particularly high number of gorillas live, it will be spared from the loggers. Overall, the IFO Timber Company has set aside 27% of its whole concession territory for conservation. Even in the rest of its land, trees are not felled everywhere. The area in which felling is allowed is divided into 30 zones, and felling takes place in just one of the zones each year. At the end of its forest inventory, the company knows every corner of the felling zone. Every dot represents a tree. This enables them to work in a very efficient and therefore cost-saving way. In 2017, precisely 45,482 trees could have been felled. In fact, more than half of them were left standing. This forest zone can regenerate in time before the loggers return in 30 years. Other than in the neighboring national park, the timber company has quite a lot to offer the local people, and not just jobs. Eric Mbuyu has come to Attention, a village with a good 500 inhabitants. Together with his colleagues from the IFO Social Team, he explains the company's plans to the locals. This not only ensures good neighbourly relations, it's also in keeping with the demands of human rights groups, who are often critical of timber companies' dealings with local inhabitants. The village elder would like the timber company to repair a road leading to the next village. This woman wants the timber company to ensure that certain trees around the village will not be felled. And this man asks if the company could contribute to the wages of the local teachers, since they're often not paid by the state. The forest management plan approved by the authorities requires the timber company to pay into a local development fund. The inhabitants also have a say in how it's used.
Nous venons même avant que les activités d'exploitation commencent dans cette assiette annuelle de coupe.
We're here before work starts in the felling zone. When we reach agreement, we'll draw up a contract to be signed by everyone involved. Only then can the company begin to fell trees. We've just been talking with them about the felling zone for the coming year.
Eric also meets the people who aren't at home in the village, but in the forest itself. They belong to the Baka and Mikaya pygmy peoples who live predominantly in and from the forest. For them, the forest is a spiritual being. They sing to ensure that the forest will continue to look after them. The work of the timber company is introducing a new era into their lives. But they too have a say in what happens. It's something very new for the Baka and the Mikaya, since normally nobody here takes their interests into account. A large P is painted onto this wild mango tree. It tells the loggers that the tree is protected. Its fruit is an important source of food. The timber company has undertaken to preserve settlements, sacred sites, and trees that are important to the pygmies from logging. That's why the social team is also being shown this tree. It's a medicine tree with a very special remedy.
The bark is for settling problems. When there's a dispute, if a thief doesn't admit that he's stolen something, we take the bark, crush it, and put it in water. Then we put drops of the water into the eye. We find out if you're guilty because it blinds you.
Fortunately, the arbitration powers of the bark take effect before it's applied. For fear of losing their sight, so far every guilty person has confessed. Using a GPS device, a pygmy woman determines the precise location of the tree so that it can be recorded in the loggers' maps. The singing moves everyone on to the next tree with magical powers, a sort of anti-migration tree.
If a husband leaves and won't come back, the wife takes the bark of this tree and eats it, mixed with a local pepper. She cries out, "Husband, come back! Husband, come back!" And it works. He'll come back.
Does it always work? The answer is clear.
Every time.
Responsible forestry includes respect, not only for nature, but also for the traditions of the forest dwellers. In addition, the timber company provides jobs and financial support for the villagers. So no one here is against the trade in tropical woods. The IFO sawmill lies on the banks of the Sanga, in the small town of Ngombe. With around 1,000 workers, it's the biggest employer in the region. The timber company belongs to the Swiss enterprise Interholco that trades worldwide in tropical woods. For years, environmentalists have called for a boycott of tropical woods. This timber company aims to change the minds of even critical consumers and thereby open up new markets. The timber company practices sustainable forestry and protects wildlife and the rights of the local population. That's why this timber has been awarded an official certification for responsible forestry. The label of the FSC, the Forestry Stewardship Council. Independent inspectors check once a year whether the company really is respecting all the conditions. Among experts, the IFO is regarded as an exemplary company in terms of sustainable forestry. But there is one problem. Despite all the efforts, some eco-activists still see all the talk of sustainable tropical timber as nothing but fine words. Vincent Eustace is fully aware of the mistrust. He works at the neighboring timber company of CIB, which has also been awarded the FSC quality label. Many critics believe that nature can only be protected in a national park.
Everything to do with forestry, whether it's in the Congo basin or on other continents, is viewed by the public with mistrust. Because trees are felled, roads laid and forests destroyed. That always creates a negative image. Consumers in Europe and America don't see how things are done here, so they have a lot of prejudices.
The forestry sector is the most important employer here after the state. Just imagine if we had to stop our work here. No more forestry. Then 1,000 people would be unemployed. Together with their families, 10,000 people would be affected.
If you want to protect the forest in the northern Congo, there are clearly two ways to go about it. Either you set up national parks and give them the necessary resources to protect them, because otherwise they exist only on paper, or you create forestry concessions in which the forest is used sustainably.
The two FSC-certified timber companies really do keep to the rules, as is demonstrated by their regular controls. One example, the timber yard, where the tree trunks are stored, must not be bigger than 2,500 square meters in area. This is measured precisely by GPS.
0,02.
Once the loggers have finished in the forest, the inspectors check that they've kept to the maximum width of the tracks on which the caterpillar tractors haul away the tree trunks. If they detect any serious infringements, the workers responsible are called to account. In the worst-case scenario, the company could lose its environmental label. In the IFO concession, around 7% of the felling zone set for the year is opened up by felling trees and laying transport roads. And it's amazing how quickly these areas grow up again. 6 months after the loggers disappeared, the tracks cleared for the tractors are overgrown again. The crown of a felled tree that was left behind is hardly recognizable. And after 10 years, it's virtually impossible to find a forest area where trees were felled. According to the GPS, one such area was exactly here. 10 years later, and the forest is hard to distinguish from primary rainforest. Environmentally responsible forestry pays off for the timber company because they want to use the forest again in the future. But how does the work of the loggers affect the lives of the gorillas? How well or how badly do the great apes fare in the IFO forestry concession? To find out, independent scientists have counted the animals, or rather the sleeping nests they build from plant material every day. The biologists conducted their gorilla count twice, in 2007 and 2014, to find out if numbers had gone up or down. The result of their study is as unequivocal as it is surprising, even for the experts. There are about 70,000 western lowland gorillas living in the IFO concession, more than anywhere else, and far more than in the neighboring Odzala-Kokoua National Park. And their numbers have remained stable over the years. In contrast to many other regions, the gorilla population has not declined here. And that's good news for the timber company too, because the gorillas eat the fruits of the trees, thereby disseminating the seeds. So they contribute to the regeneration of the forest. Against all prejudices, the gorillas have no problem in sharing the forest with the loggers. The timber company respects their living space and even protects the animals against poachers. But it's not just protection that the FSC-certified timber companies offer the gorillas. They've also ensured that the area in which the gorillas can safely roam has significantly increased over the years. The secure home of the gorillas in the north of the Republic of the Congo has now grown to nearly twice the size of Belgium. This success is due not just to the national parks, but above all to two timber companies that the outside world has so far hardly even heard of. Does what's been achieved for the gorillas also apply to the forest elephants? Again and again, forest engineer Jean-Paul Berlinga sees the odd one of these rare animals in the IFO forest. No one knows exactly how many elephants live here, though. They're difficult to count. They cover long distances and they're roaming. In a bid to track down the elephants, Jean-Paul Belinga uses a video trap. The camera is operational for days on end. It's triggered automatically by movement and then films short sequences. But even after a week, there's been no sign of elephants in this location, just moths and flies. Another try in Ignoli, a village on the national highway which lies between the timber company's territory and the Odzala-Kokoua National Park. The village has been abandoned. The last 16 villagers moved away 2 months ago because their village was repeatedly visited by forest elephants. The grey giants were particularly interested in the village's oil palm plantation. Do they still keep coming back? Finally, the video trap captures its first forest elephant. Its tusks have a somewhat different colouring, which makes them especially sought after by poachers. Before sunset, no other elephants appear. But fortunately, the video trap can also film in the dark. This elephant is giving its back a good scratch on a broken palm tree. And he's not alone. Gradually, a small herd appears. Before long, they're quarreling about who should eat first. By the end, there'll be very little left of the oil palm. No wonder many locals see the elephants as a scourge. Not even a passing car can interrupt his meal. While the biologists were counting the gorillas in the logging concession, they also looked for traces of forest elephants. Finally, they estimated their number in the IFO territory at between 3,000 and 4,000. Early in the morning, the video trap is triggered again. And again shortly after. 3 men carrying a Kalashnikov and blood-stained sacks. Poachers. Unaware of being watched, they're obviously following the tracks of the elephants. These pictures will later help the rangers in their hunt for the poachers. To put a stop to their poaching, heavily armed eco-guards are out and about every day. The FSC-certified timber companies also pay for these rangers, who work closely with the national parks. The poachers have made off. But they left behind part of their booty. The rangers find live grey parrots in the cages. They've already freed hundreds of captured birds. The trade in grey parrots is the latest business venture of the poachers.
The birds were ordered by people in Brazzaville or Kinshasa. The poachers sell them for around 40 euros each. And the dealers then take them to Europe, where they're sold for 300 euros.
Illegal hunting and the escalating trade in living animals, bushmeat and ivory are serious problems for species conservation. But an even greater threat to nature in the northern Congo comes from a different direction. A gold mine on the edge of the Odzala-Kokoua National Park, financed by capital from China, built by Chinese workers. The earth below the rainforest is full of valuable minerals. The forest is completely destroyed and the soil is panned for gold. No trees will grow in this devastated area for a long time. And this is just a small mine, which is testing to see whether industrial mining would be profitable. Gold prospectors have already been looking around the IFO territory, but the timber company was able to prevent mining. Unlike the national park, it can offer things that are also of economic benefit: tropical woods and a lot of jobs.
Congo is a country that is busy developing itself. It needs to use the natural resource to develop itself. All we need to do is propose to the national authorities a way to use those natural resources in a sustainable fashion. The alternative are really mining, destruction, and the logging companies can actually work perfectly hand in hand with a national park to develop conservation.
This place is called Paris. The people here are celebrating the completion of 22 wooden houses. What's succeeded here is something not achievable through appeals and penalties alone. People have recognized the value of an intact forest. They are benefiting from sustainable development without destroying the forest.
La forêt, qui est une source de vie, doit continuer à vivre, doit continuer à rester.
The forest is a source of life. It must continue to live, continue to survive. The people who live around the forest also need it, for harvesting timber, for example, for making use of all the flora and fauna that's here, such as for herbal medicine. For economic reasons, we must be allowed to carry on using everything the forest provides, but we must do so judiciously.
The logging village of Ngombe has grown into a town of 10,000 inhabitants. People here can do more than just enjoy their leisure time. There are 2 football teams, a hospital, clean water, and free electricity for the staff of the timber company. On Saturday afternoons, people get together on and around Etienne's terrace. They've got dressed up to show that they don't live in poverty and deprivation. Elegantly turned out, they dance to the songs of the best-known musician far and wide.
The people here live as if they were in a city. See how I'm dressed, suit and tie. I live as if I were in the capital Brazzaville or some other city. I'm not discomfited when I meet a city dweller. I live in Ngombe, in the middle of the forest, and I live very, very well.
Many people in the region know him under his stage name, Rufin Godjar. And he might sing in French, in Lingala, or in Spanish. Salsa rhythms are not the only surprise in the north of the Republic of the Congo. The region could become a role model for the whole of Central Africa, for the world's second largest area of rainforest after the Amazon. Nature conservation and tropical timber bearing the FSC label, national parks and sustainable forestry. Together, they represent hope for the rainforest, for the benefit of humans and gorillas.
Gozando